Has your child been given a diagnosis of auditory processing disorder, whether it's what we call auditory processing disorder or central, CAPD or APD? Yes, of course, they are different. But you know, has your child been given a diagnosis of either, particularly the APD version, okay? Or do you see that your child has difficulty taking in longer instructions? Has your child a difficulty with reading and retaining information from what they've read? So they may be able to read quite easily, but it's actually the processing and retention of the information that they've read that is more of the issue. And that can often be like a high level difficulty that comes about because of auditory processing difficulties. So if that's the case, then this is the video for you. I've worked with so many children with auditory processing difficulties and disorders over the years. And the reason that I'm doing this video is, well, for a variety of reasons, but one, because I think it's actually so misunderstood. And I think a lot of children, teenagers and adults aren't achieving their true potential, life-wise, work-wise, health, you know, the whole lot, because of the lack of understanding that we have around auditory processing disorder, and actually how easy it is to resolve, and I mean resolve and remediate a lot of those processing issues, if not all of them. Okay, and that's what I have seen over the last 20 years. So I really want to talk to you about that. I suppose when I worked for the health service many years ago, 20 years ago, yeah. And I worked for the health service for about 5 years at that stage, and then I went on and worked for another company. And I found it really difficult at that time. I worked with a lot of great speech and language therapists, and they were really, in fact, they were very specialist in that clinic in the area of what we used to call language disorder. Now we're calling it, I suppose, well, the receptive part of it anyway, more auditory processing disorder. But they were just phenomenal on what's now termed developmental language delay or, developmental language disorder. We would have termed language disorder in those days. And the therapists there, my colleagues, were just really phenomenal and put a huge amount of work into helping children with what I would talk about now, one part of it, auditory processing disorder, really achieve their true potential. Because, and they were, as I say, fantastic at it. And so, you know, I had a great grounding in all of that, in which I really am very thankful for. But I struggled with, because it just didn't feel right to me. I struggled with the whole theory concept at that time within the clinic, and this was widely accepted, and my understanding is it's the same today, that, you know, parents were to be told that, you know, their child had, when they had an auditory processing disorder or a language disorder, developmental language disorder, that there was only a certain amount that we were going to be able to do via our speech and language therapy techniques, and we'd bring the child absolutely as far as we possibly could, but that it was a lifelong condition, and that they were going to have difficulties, challenges, whether it be with auditory processing disorder on the processing end of things, i.e. taking in instructions, following information, retaining information, or, you know, on the expressive end of things in terms of expressing themselves. But we're talking specifically in this video about the auditory processing disorder end of things, which is more the receptive end of things. How much information can I take in? Can I take in multiple instructions at one time? Can I retain the information? All of that kind of thing. Now, you can imagine that the implications, that if this is a lifelong thing and, you know, children would only get to a certain point with it, we were having to let children go at that stage in that service at 12 years of age, saying to the parents, yes, we'll see you on maybe a 6-monthly basis or a yearly basis, but, you know, if you continue to work on the auditory processing, but it's not going to change very much more than what's changed already. Now, I found that very hard to do, because just to say that to parents, because it just didn't feel right. I really felt there has to be, surely, you know, these were really intelligent kids. Their difficulty was on the processing end of things. So surely there had to be something that we could have done. But we were limited at that point, and seem to be still now, by our speech and language therapy techniques, even though there's some amazing speech and language therapy techniques that really can make a huge difference to kids. But in that area in particular, and I know that that's what the research is showing as well, that in terms of developmental language disorder, we're not seeing the results that we should be seeing using speech and language therapy techniques. But so at that stage, you know, I was very disillusioned, I suppose. I was kind of at that point where I became like quite disillusioned with speech and language therapy and what it had to offer, because I thought, God, surely there has to be more than this for these kids. They're bright kids, their parents are very much on board, you know, but we were having to let them go because we didn't have anything more to offer from a speech therapy perspective. But I was thinking about these kids, my God, in the future, what was going to happen, you know, in terms of were they going to be able to attend college? How were they going to do in exams? What kind of work were they going to get? You know, their relationships, everything. It had huge implications, I felt, for them. And at the same time, I felt, you know, there has to be something because, you know, these are bright kids, you know, they should be able to do this. So it was at that stage that I started to travel, and I really, you know, I did a lot of work with therapists in the States. I was very lucky to work with people like Sheila Frick, Mary Choir, oh my golly now, just remembering them all. They were phenomenal. Met with Patty Otter, who else? Oh my God, there's been so many of them. Then met with Paul Madall. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Alfred Tomatis, whom I'd love to have met, and of course would love to have met Jean Ayres, but she had passed away at that stage. But just seeing all these phenomenal therapists, psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, working, using different techniques, using kind of, you know, they were really thinking outside the box. So it wasn't just, you know, we're going to do it like this and this is the only way we're going to do it. They were really looking outside the box, creating new ideas. They weren't happy just to accept this is the way we've always done it and this is the way we'll always do it. They wanted to create new ways of helping the brain, helping the child achieve their potential.